The boy is drawing at the kitchen table when the doorbell rings. He doesn't look up. 6-year-olds with serious projects don't look up for doorbells. His name is Eli. He has his father's jaw, that specific, stubborn set to it, and his father's hands, wide-palmed and careful with things that matter. He has his father's way of going completely still when something confuses him, like the world owes him an explanation and he is willing to wait. He has never met his father. The doorbell rings again. His dad, the one who raised him, the one who knows his nightmares and his cereal preferences and exactly how many times to read the same book before it stops being comforting. His dad sets down the dish he is drying and walks to the door. 7 years. The man on the other side of that door has been gone for 7 years. What happens next is not a love story. Not right away. It's something messier and more honest than that. But you need to understand what 7 years actually looks like before that door opens. Chapter 1. The night everything broke. His name is Noah Voss, 29 years old now, which means he was 22 when it happened, practically a child himself, making decisions that would reshape the rest of his life. He needs you to understand that, not as an excuse. He stopped making excuses somewhere around year 3, but as context. 22 years old, newly bonded, newly pregnant, living in a city that was not his, with an alpha whose family had made clear from the first dinner that Noah was not what they had planned for their son. The alpha's name is Callum Reed. Callum at 25 was everything his family had built him to be. Composed, ambitious, the kind of man who walked into rooms and changed their atmosphere without trying. He was also in the specific way of people raised to prioritize legacy over feeling, completely unprepared for what it meant to actually build a life with someone. Noah found out he was pregnant on a Tuesday. He sat with it for 3 days, alone, because Callum was traveling and Noah had not yet learned that some news could not wait for the right moment. He told Callum on a Friday night. What he expected? Fear, maybe. Adjustment time. The conversation couples have when something enormous and unplanned arrives. What he got was silence. Then a very careful, very controlled version of Callum's voice saying things like, "We need to think about this practically, and my family has certain expectations, and the one that Noah still hears sometimes at 3 in the morning. I don't know if I'm ready for this to be my life." Noah waited. He waited 2 weeks for Callum to become ready. On the 15th day, he stopped waiting. This is the part Noah does not tell people cleanly, because it does not make him look heroic. He did not leave with his head high. He left at 6 in the morning while Callum was still asleep, with one suitcase and the specific nauseating clarity of someone who has finally accepted that hope is making them stupid. He left a note. For sentences. He has never told anyone what it said. He took a bus to Portland, where his college roommate Marcus had a couch and enough decency not to ask too many questions in the first week. He did not call Callum. Callum did not call him. That silence was its own kind of answer. Chapter 2. What 7 years actually looks like. Year 1 was survival, which is not romantic, but is true. Marcus's couch became a room in a shared apartment, became a studio of Noah's own by month 8. When he had picked up enough freelance graphic design work to cover rent and had learned that pregnancy and financial instability were both more manageable when you stopped pretending you were fine to people who could see you were not. Eli was born in October, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and Callum's jaw already visible, which was the first of many times that loving Eli completely would coexist with something smaller and uglier that Noah did not have a name for yet. Not resentment, exactly. Something more like grief. Year 2 was harder than year 1, because year 1 had adrenaline. Year 2 had a teething infant and a client who did not pay, and a night in February where Noah sat on the bathroom floor at 2 in the morning, genuinely uncertain whether he could keep doing this, while Eli slept in the next room, making the small perfect sounds of someone with no concept of how difficult everything was. He kept doing it. Year 3, he started therapy. Not because he had resolved anything, but because Marcus pointed out, gently and then less gently, that Noah was functioning but not living, and that Eli deserved a dad who was present and not just operational. That was the year Noah started learning the difference. Year 4, he got a real job, a small design firm in Portland that did branding work. Honest work, the kind where you could see what you had made. He was good at it. He had always been good at making things look like what they actually were, which was perhaps why he had struggled so much when his own life kept refusing to. Year 5, Eli started kindergarten and asked, in the direct way that 5-year-olds ask things that adults spend years working up to, why his friend Sophia had 2 dads and he only had one. Noah told him the truth, the age-appropriate version, that his other dad had made a choice when Eli was very small, before he knew what he was choosing, and that sometimes people make choices they cannot take back. Does he know about me? Eli asked. Noah had been preparing this answer for 5 years without arriving at a good one. I don't know, he said, which was honest. Callum knew Noah had been pregnant. Whether Callum had allowed himself to follow that forward, to do the math, to imagine, Noah genuinely could not say. Eli considered this with the gravity of someone filing information for later. Okay, he said, and went back to his coloring. Year 6, Noah stopped bracing for Callum to appear. This was not forgiveness. It was something more pragmatic, the decision to stop spending energy on a door that might never open. Eli had a life. Noah had a life. That life did not have a gap shaped like Callum Reed in it, because they had filled the space with other things. With Marcus and his husband Jerome, who had become something between uncles and co-parents. With a neighborhood and a school and a pediatrician who knew Eli's history. With routines and inside jokes and a specific weekend pancake tradition that had its own rules. Year 6 was when Noah realized he was not waiting anymore. Year 7, the doorbell. Chapter 3, Callum, what he tells himself. The version of this story that Callum Reed told himself for 6 years goes like this. Noah left. Noah made a choice. Noah had information Callum did not have, the pregnancy, the timeline, the whole shape of what was coming. And Noah decided alone that Callum was not going to be part of it. Callum had been denied the chance to rise or fail on his own terms. This version is not entirely false. It is also not complete. The complete version, which Callum arrived at slowly and expensively through years of therapy he did not start until his 31st birthday, goes more like this. He had 2 weeks. Noah gave him 2 weeks, which was more than Callum deserved given what he had said in that first conversation. I don't know if I'm ready for this to be my life, said to a person who was already living it, who had no option of not being ready. In those 2 weeks, Callum did not call Noah, did not research what it meant to have a child, did not have a single conversation with his family about changing their expectations, did not do any of the things that would have shown, concretely, that he was choosing differently. He went to work. He had dinners with his family where the subject of Noah came up in careful, managed ways, as if everyone was waiting for something to resolve itself. When he came home on the 15th day and found Noah gone, his first feeling, and this is the part that took years to admit, his first feeling was relief. Not because he did not love Noah. He did, in the particular way of people who love someone without yet understanding what love requires of them. But because the decision had been made for him, and Callum Reed, for all his composure and ambition, was a man who had never learned to make hard decisions for himself. His family made them. Circumstances made them. He executed. The relief lasted about 6 months. Then it curdled into something he could not name cleanly. Regret was too small. Shame was closer. The specific compounding shame of a man who had been given something real and responded by waiting for someone else to decide what to do with it. He did not look for Noah. This is the truth he had to sit with longest. He did not look. He knew Noah had gone to Portland. Marcus was a mutual acquaintance, and the information was not hard to find. Callum chose not to find it. The reasons he gave himself changed over the years. Noah had made his decision. Noah deserved space. Noah would reach out if he wanted Callum involved. By year 5, Callum's therapist, a patient woman named Dr. Osei who had heard all of these reasons in sequence, said to him, "Those aren't reasons. Those are the story you tell yourself, so you don't have to do the terrifying thing." "What's the terrifying thing?" Callum asked. "Showing up," she said, "when you're not sure you'll be wanted." He showed up 14 months later, not because he was ready, because he finally understood that ready was not coming. Chapter 4, the door opens. Noah knows who it is before he opens the door. not instinct or bond sense or any of the things that get romanticized in these stories. It is simpler, a car outside that did not belong to anyone on this street. The way the bell rang, twice, then a pause, then nothing, like someone who had prepared something and then lost their nerve. He opens the door. Callum Reed is 32 years old and looks like 7 years have not been light on him. Not dramatically. He is not haggard or broken, just more worn in, less like a photograph of himself. He is holding nothing. No flowers, no gifts. No one notes this. It could mean Callum has thought about how those things would look, or it could mean he has thought about how they would feel, which is a different calculation entirely. Noah, Callum says. Noah leans against the doorframe with his arms crossed. Not a performed posture. His body is creating distance, and he lets it. Callum. Silence. How did you find us? Noah asks. Marcus. A pause. He didn't want to. He made me explain myself for about 40 minutes before he gave me the address. He also told me that if I came here and made things worse. Callum stops. Something close to a real expression crosses his face. He was very specific about what he would do. That sounded like Marcus. Another silence. This one has more weight. I'm not here to ask for anything, Callum says. I know how that sounds. I know you have no reason to believe it. But I need you to know that's true before anything else. Noah looks at him for a long moment. Inside, he can hear Eli, the specific sound of sneakers on the kitchen floor, the small tuneless sound Eli makes when concentrating, the ordinary music of a child who does not know yet that the world just shifted. He's in the kitchen, Noah says. Not an invitation. A fact. I know, Callum says. I could hear him. Noah watches Callum's face when he says that. The way something moves through it, too fast to catch cleanly before the composure returns. Come in, Noah says. But Callum. He waits until Callum meets his eyes. He doesn't know who you are. That is not changing today unless he asks. Callum nods. Noah opens the door wider. Chapter 5, Eli. The first thing Eli says to Callum is not hello. He looks up from his drawing. A complicated scene involving dinosaurs in a courtroom, which Noah has learned not to question, and assesses the stranger in his kitchen with the precise, uncomfortable attention of a child who has learned to read adults carefully. You have the same hands as me, Eli says. The room does something. Noah feels it, the air changing pressure, the weight of a sentence that means more than the person saying it knows. Callum looks at his hands, then at Eli's hands, resting flat on either side of the drawing. Yeah, Callum says. His voice is different, quieter, like he is handling something that could break. I guess we do. Eli considers this, then returns to his drawing. Dad's hands are different. His fingers are longer. That's true, Noah says, from the counter where he is standing very still. Who are you? Eli asks Callum, without looking up. Conversational, not suspicious. He is 6. The world is still mostly full of people who turn out to be fine. Callum looks at Noah. Noah gives him nothing. This was the agreement. I'm someone your dad knew a long time ago, Callum says. My name is Callum. Eli looks up. Evaluating. Like the country? That's Columbia. Different spelling. Eli makes a face that suggests he finds the distinction unnecessarily complicated. Then he holds up his drawing. Do you think dinosaurs would have had lawyers? A pause. Probably. Any society complex enough to have disputes needs someone to argue them. Eli points at him. That's what Dad said. Exactly like that. He looks at Noah. Dad, he said the same thing as you. I heard, Noah says. Later, after Callum has been shown the dinosaur courtroom in full detail, after Eli has explained the case, a Triceratops is suing a Brachiosaurus over territory rights. Legal precedent is unclear after Eli has been called for bath time and has left with the abrupt subject change of childhood. Noah and Callum stand on opposite sides of the kitchen. Callum's jaw is working like he is holding something in. Don't, Noah says quietly. I'm not. I know what you're about to feel, Noah says, and I need you to not do it in my kitchen. He is not a revelation. He is a person. He has been a person for 6 years without you. Callum closes his mouth. I know, he says. Chapter 6. The conversation that does not go cleanly. Eli goes to bed at 8:30. Noah goes through the whole routine. The bath, the two books, the specific arrangement of stuffed animals that has rules Noah has memorized by necessity and maintained by love. When he comes back downstairs, Callum is still there. Noah had half expected him not to be. He is sitting at the kitchen table, not touching anything, sitting in the chair that is not Noah's and not Eli's, the one that is left. Noah puts on the kettle, not as hospitality. He needs something to do with his hands. Say what you came to say. Noah says. I'm sorry, Callum says. Noah waits. That's not sufficient. I know that, Callum continues. I'm not saying it like it fixes anything. I'm saying it because it's true, and I've needed to say it to your face for years, and I didn't because I was a coward. Noah pours the water, watches it steep. What do you actually want, Callum? Not in the abstract. Specifically. To know him, Callum says. If you'll let me. If he wants that, when he's old enough to want or not want things with full information. And what do you think that looks like? I don't know. I haven't let myself plan too far, because every plan assumed a generosity from you that I haven't earned. Noah sets down the mug. You want to know the thing that makes me angriest? He says. It's not that you left. I made peace with that. What makes me angry is that he has your jaw. He has your hands. He figured out last week that his ears are shaped differently than mine, and he has started examining every adult he meets to find match. Noah stops. He has been doing your face in the world for 6 years without knowing why. That is what you did. Callum does not look away. I know, he says. Stop saying I know like it helps. Noah says, and his voice cracks slightly on the last word, which he did not plan and hates. Knowing didn't make you come for 6 years. Knowing didn't make you pick up the phone. You're right, Callum says. You're completely right. I don't have an answer that isn't just, I was afraid, and I let the fear make decisions for me, and I understand if that is not something you can work with. Silence. The kettle has long since gone cold. I'm not going to tell him tonight, Noah says finally. I'm not going to tell him this week. I'm going to talk to my therapist and to Marcus before I make any decisions. And if you try to push any of that timeline, you're done. Not as punishment, because he is not a reconciliation arc. He's a child. Understood, Callum says. Go home. I'll call you. Callum stands. He pauses at the kitchen doorway. The dinosaur lawyer thing, he says. Does he always? He has a whole legal system, Noah says. Different dinosaurs have different rights depending on geological period. The Cretaceous ones have more protections. Something moves through Callum's face. He built that himself. Every detail, Noah says. Callum nods once, like he is filing something important, and leaves. Chapter 7. What Noah tells Marcus. Marcus has known Noah for 11 years. He knew him before Callum, and after Callum, and during Callum, and has opinions about all 3 periods. He shows up the next morning with coffee and the expression of someone who has been waiting by the phone. Before you say anything, Noah says, I know you gave him the address. I gave him the address, Marcus confirms, sitting in Eli's chair without hesitating. He has been in this kitchen long enough that the hierarchy is instinctive. Why? Because he sat in my living room for 40 minutes and answered every hard question without flinching. And because Eli deserves to make his own choice about his father with actual information, not a gap. Marcus wraps his hands around his coffee. I'm not saying I did the right thing. I'm saying I made a call. Noah sits across from him. He said sorry. Noah says, what did you feel? Angry. That's fair. And something else, Noah says, which I hate, because the something else makes it complicated. And I had gotten very good at it being simple. He left. Eli and I built something. End of story. That was a story I could live inside. Marcus looks at him with the expression that Noah has always found simultaneously comforting and irritating. The one that means Marcus has already thought through several steps ahead and is waiting for Noah to catch up. You know what's interesting about that story? Marcus says, the ending is missing. No, it's not. You have a middle, Marcus says. A really good middle. You survived, you built something. Eli is extraordinary. But you don't have an ending because the ending requires deciding what to do with the person who left. And you have been not deciding that for 6 years. Noah says nothing. I'm not telling you to forgive him, Marcus says. I'm not telling you to let him in. I'm saying that he left was never the whole story. And now he's standing on your porch, and you have to write the next part. The back door bangs. Eli comes in from the yard with a stick he has apparently decided is important, mud on both knees, the expression of someone with urgent news. Dad, there's a frog. Where's the frog, Eli? Near the fence. He's big. I think he lives there. We'll check on him after breakfast. Eli looks at Marcus. Uncle Marcus, do frogs have legal rights? Marcus, without missing a beat. In some jurisdictions, yes. Eli nods with complete seriousness and goes to wash his hands. Noah watches him go. He has his jaw, Noah says quietly, and his hands. Yesterday he used the exact same phrasing Callum used last night, societies and disputes, and he has never met the man. I know, Marcus says. What'd I do with that? You figure out who that information belongs to. Marcus says. You. Or Eli. Chapter 8. 3 weeks. What changes and what doesn't. Noah calls Callum 8 days after the first visit. Not because he is ready, because he has sat with his therapist twice and Marcus once more and arrived at the conclusion that readiness is a luxury Eli's age does not allow. Eli is 6. The window for how a child understands the shape of his family is not infinite. I have conditions, Noah says when Callum picks up. Tell me, Callum says. You come to the park on Saturdays. That is the territory. Eli knows you as my friend. Nothing changes unless Eli asks a direct question, at which point I answer honestly, and you follow my lead. You do not try to be impressive. You do not bring things. You show up, and you let him decide what he wants from you. A pause. And if he doesn't want anything from me? Callum asks. Then that is the answer, Noah says, and you accept it. Okay. I'm not done, Noah says. If at any point this feels like it is about you and your guilt instead of about him, it stops. You process your feelings somewhere else. My son is not your redemption story. I understand. Do you? Noah asks. Not hostile. Genuinely asking. A longer pause. I understand it intellectually, Callum says, and I'm going to fail at it sometimes because I am not built differently than I was. But I will fail and correct and keep going. That is the honest answer. Noah is quiet for a moment. Saturday, he says. 10 o'clock. Laurel Hills Park by the pond. The first Saturday is uncomfortable in the specific way of things that matter. Eli is friendly with Callum the way he is friendly with adults he is not sure about, cooperative but watchful, giving nothing for free. He shows Callum the frog by the fence. He explains at length why the frog is probably a Pacific Chorus frog and not a bullfrog, based on color and size. He names the frog Gerald while Callum watches. Callum listens with complete attention. How do you know all this? He asks. Library books, Eli says. And Dad. But mostly library books, because Dad says you have to check sources. Callum looks at Noah. Noah looks away. The second Saturday, Eli asks Callum if he knows how to play chess. Callum does not know how to play chess. This is exactly the right answer. Eli has been learning for 3 months and has reached the evangelical phase of a new interest. He teaches Callum the rules with patient intensity, points out mistakes without cruelty, and beats him in 11 moves. You're good, Callum says. I know, Eli says simply. Do you want to play again? Yes, Callum says. He loses again. He keeps showing up every Saturday. The third week, walking back to the car, Eli takes Noah's hand and says without context, Callum has the same eyebrows as me. Noah squeezes his hand. Yeah, he says. He does. Eli walks quietly for a moment. Is he related to us? He asks. 7 years of preparing for this question. 7 years of various versions playing out in his head at 3 in the morning. Noah stops walking. He crouches to Eli's level. He has always done this, met him at eye level for things that matter. What made you think that? He asks. Eli thinks carefully. The hands, he says. The eyebrows. The thing he said about societies and lawyers. And a pause. And in that pause is 6 years of a child doing something quietly extraordinary, paying attention. He looks at me like you look at me, Eli says. Like I'm important. Noah breathes. Yeah, baby, he says. He's related to you. Chapter 9. The conversation with Eli. They sit on a bench by the pond because Eli said he wanted to be outside for it. Noah had offered the living room, the kitchen table, the various interior spaces of a carefully built life. Eli looked at him with that particular solemnity and said outside, and Noah has learned to trust that Eli knows what he needs. Gerald is presumably nearby. Noah tells him the true version, the complete version, calibrated for a 6-year-old, but not simplified into something false. He tells Eli that he and Callum were together, that when Noah found out Eli was coming, Callum was scared in a way that made him go quiet for a long time. That Noah waited, and when the waiting felt like it was going to cost him something he could not afford to lose, he made a decision. You left. Eli asks. I left, Noah says. I came here. I built our life here. And then Callum got less scared. It took a long time, and that is on him, not on you. That has nothing to do with you. And he came to find us. Eli is quiet, looking at the pond. A duck moves across it with the air of someone with appointments. Why didn't he come sooner? Eli asks, the question that has no clean answer. Because sometimes people let fear make decisions for them, Noah says, and by the time they figure out how to stop, a lot of time has gone by. Were you scared? Eli asks. All the time, Noah says. The difference is I didn't let it stop me. Eli considers this. The duck has reached the other side. Is he my dad? Eli asks. Biologically, yes, Noah says. In every other way, that's something you get to decide. Not me. Not him. You. Can I think about it? You can think about it for as long as you want. Eli nods, satisfied. Then, after a pause, does he know about Gerald? You've told him about Gerald, Noah says. But does he know Gerald is important? Noah almost smiles. I think he's starting to understand, he says. Chapter 10, What Eli Decides. He takes 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, Callum still comes on Saturdays. Eli is the same with him, friendly, watchful, chess in the park. The difference is that Eli knows now, and Callum knows that Eli knows. And so there's a new layer, a new quality of attention, a new deliberateness happening on both sides. Callum does not push. Noah watches for this constantly, ready to shut it down, and is genuinely surprised to find that Callum does not push. He shows up. He follows Eli's lead. He gets beaten at chess and does not let Eli win and does not perform patience. He simply has it. On the 14th day, Eli comes into the kitchen while Noah is cooking and says, I want to ask Callum something. Noah turns off the stove. What do you want to ask him? If he's sorry, Eli says. Noah looks at his son, 6 years old, with Callum's hands and jaw and eyebrows, and something else entirely that belongs to no one but Eli. Okay, Noah says, we can do that. They call Callum that evening. All 3 of them on the phone. Noah on the couch, Eli cross-legged beside him with the gravity of someone conducting an official proceeding. I have a question, Eli says when Callum answers. Okay, Callum says. Are you sorry you took so long? A pause. Long enough to be real, not performed. Yes, Callum says. I'm very sorry. I was scared, and I let the scared part make my decisions. That was wrong, and I'm sorry you didn't have more time. Eli is quiet for a moment. Okay, he says. I accept the apology. A beat. When you come Saturday, can you bring a chess book? A real one, not a beginner one. I want to learn advanced strategies. Something in Callum's voice shifts, not dramatic. Just the sound of a man who has been holding his breath for a very long time. I know a good one, he says. I'll bring it Saturday. Okay, Eli says. And then, matter-of-factly, as if it is simply the next item on the agenda, good night, Dad. It is the first time. Eli hands the phone to Noah and slides off the couch and goes to get ready for bed with the complete, unhurried authority of someone who has decided something and is done deliberating. Noah holds the phone. He can hear Callum on the other end. Not speaking. Present. Noah, Callum says finally. His voice is unsteady in a way Noah has never heard it. I know I don't have any right to ask for anything else, but I want you to know I'm not here just for him. I'm here because you built something extraordinary. And I want, he stops. I know I forfeited the right to want things, but I want you to know. Noah looks at the ceiling. 7 years of one story. The possibility of a different one. I'm not there yet, Callum, he says. Maybe I won't get there, but I'm not getting there either. A pause. Saturday, Callum says. Saturday, Noah says. Epilogue. 1 year later. The chess book Callum brought had 17 chapters. Eli has read 14 of them and beaten Callum using strategies from 11. Callum has improved. It takes Eli longer now, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes more. Eli considers this a satisfying development. They see each other twice a week. Saturdays at the park, which has become a fixed point. Gerald is still in residence by the fence, now accompanied by two smaller frogs that Eli has named Gerald Jr. and Associate Gerald. Wednesdays, Callum picks Eli up from school. He learned the route, the teacher's names, the specific unwritten rules of the pickup line that only people who belong there know. He learned because Eli told him in the detailed, generous way Eli teaches things he considers important. Noah and Callum are not together. This is important to say clearly. The story did not resolve into the shape that stories are supposed to. They are not enemies. They are not strangers. They are two people who share something irreplaceable and are slowly, imperfectly, learning what that means when the person you share it with is someone you have complicated history with. There have been dinners, conversations that ran until midnight, some difficult and some something else. There is the beginning of something Noah does not have a name for yet and is not trying to name, because naming it would make a project, and right now, it is just alive, present, growing at its own pace. Callum is still in therapy. He talks about it openly now, which is new for him, and Noah has noticed that the talking is different from the old composure. More honest, more like a person and less like the performance of one. One evening in October, Eli's 7th birthday, a small party, a dinosaur cake that Eli corrected the decorator about because the coloring was inaccurate. Callum is stacking chairs in the living room when Eli comes and stands next to him. "Dad," Eli says. Callum looks at him. "We need to talk about your chess," Eli says seriously. "You're improving, but there's a problem with how you're using your rooks." Callum sets down a chair. "Tell me," he says. From the kitchen doorway, Noah watches his son explaining rook strategy to the man who took 7 years to find his way here. Eli's hands moving, describing something precise. Callum's hands, same shape, same width, receiving it. This is not the ending Noah planned. It is not the story he told himself through the hard years. It is stranger than that, and more specific, and in some ways harder. It is also in the way that true things are exactly what it needed to be. In the yard, by the fence, Gerald sits in the October dark, unbothered. End.